People usually call Islam a religion that supports slavery, whereas the reality is that Islam is the only religion on earth which tells us how to completely get rid of the system of slavery. But haters try to use this to undermine the religion of Islam. Watch this video till the end and you will know that all major religions support slavery except for Islam. There are so many verses I can use, but I will only choose a few verses from the Old and New Testament and only one verse from the Quran, and draw a comparison which will make things black and white in your head. So, starting with the Jews and Christians who fool and deceive their own selves by thinking they are civilized. The Old and the New Testament apparently allows stealing other slaves, harsh treatment against the slaves, selling your daughters into slavery, and it tells the slaves to be scared of their masters and submissive even if the master is unjust. What a ruthless system, yet they have the courage to speak against Islam. Let me read these 4 verses from the Old and the New Testament for you. Book of Exodus, chapter 21, verses 20 and 21. When a man strikes his slave, male or female, with a rod, and the slave dies under his hand, he shall be avenged. But if the slave survives a day or 2, he is not to be avenged, for the slave is his money. Which means beat the hell out of your slaves as long as you don't kill them. Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 23, verse 15. You shall not give up to his master a slave who has escaped from his master to you. Which means you are allowed to steal other slaves as long as they come to you willingly. Book of Ephesians, chapter 6 and verse 5. Bond servants, obey your earthly masters with fear and trembling, with a sincere heart as you would Christ. So, Bible wants slaves not to only be submissive, but also scared of their masters. Book of Peter, chapter 2, verse 18. Servants, be subject to your masters with all respect, not only to the good and gentle, but also to the unjust. Which means, obey your master even if he is unjust to you, and which also means Jews and Christians are allowed to be unjust and cruel to the slaves and subjects. Book of Exodus, chapter 21, verse 7. A father may sell his daughter into slavery, which means selling your daughters as slaves is allowed in Judaism and Christianity. Now, let me only read one verse from the Quran in relation to slaves or slavery, and you yourself will hear the difference. Allah says in Surah 24, verse 33 that, if any of your slaves wish to pay for their freedom, make a contract with them accordingly. If you know they have good in them, and give them some of the wealth God has given you. Do not force your slave girls into prostitution, when they themselves wish to remain honorable, in your quest for the short-term gains of this world. Although if they are forced, God will be forgiving and merciful to them. Can you see the difference? Judaism and Christianity put the pressure on the slave and tells the slave to be beaten up, but be loyal to the masters. And Islam puts the pressure on the master and tells the master to free the slave if he or she wants to be freed, to treat them honorably. And if something goes wrong, then Allah will forgive the slaves and not the masters. Totally opposite to the ruthless system of the Old and the New Testament. Now, coming to Hinduism, which I don't believe to be a religion at all, but just to clarify their picture as well. Hindus say we don't believe in slavery, but we believe in the caste system. Caste system is worse than slavery, and slavery is in the past, but caste system still exists. So, Hindus should stay away from this subject because they are not qualified enough to talk about slavery, while caste system exists in their society till this day and age. So, my message to those Jews, Christians and Hindus who call Islam a religion that supports slavery, go back and check your religious scriptures, because it is you who introduced slavery and the caste system in the world, and it is Islam which is fighting to eradicate it from planet Earth by introducing equality among all humans. Quran is an unseen message from our God to us. See it and try to understand it before it's too late.